Cricket's Return and the Wisdom of Izerina by James Carlson. A Cricket and Snail Production. Chapter 1. Our story begins at the end of our last story, when Cricket and Snail were arriving by plane to the Prague airport in the Czech Republic. They had just had an adventure that started one day when Cricket was hopping in a field. After a big hop, she landed on the back of a giant bird that carried her from her home in the Azera mountains all the way across the ocean to the United States. There she met a snail who helped her find her way home. They met many interesting animals and had many exciting experiences. It's kind of a long story, really, but we join them now as Cricket and Snail are getting off their plane in Prague. Cricket was very excited to be in her home country and to hear her own language spoken all around her again. But once she and Snail went outside the airport, Cricket had a worried look on her face. "Are you all right?" Snail asked. Cricket said,
"It's just that everything here in the city is so different from my home in the Azera mountains."
Snail looked around at the cars, buses, and planes coming and going and said, "I know what you mean. And have you noticed that it's kind of hard to breathe?"
"Yes, the air is pretty bad, isn't it?"
she said. "Do you know the way home?" said Snail. She said,
"That's just it. I'm not sure which direction to go."
"What should we do?" said Snail.
"Whenever I'm lost in a Czech forest, I just ask one of the animals for directions. But I only see people staring into these funny little rectangles in their hands. It's like they are zombies."
"Wait, I see a critter over there," said Snail. It was a pigeon, weaving in and out of the rolling suitcases and car tires in the parking lot. He looked very tired of being pushed around by all the chaos near the airport. He staggered up to the sidewalk and said to himself, "Man, this sucks." After he caught his breath, he looked up and saw Cricket and Snail. He said, "Do you need help? You look lost."
"Actually, we do. We have been on an amazing adventure in America and we just got back. My home is in the Azera mountains, but I'm not sure which direction to go in to get there."
"Ah, the mountains," said the pigeon. "I used to be able to see them from here, but the air's so bad now that I can't see them unless I fly way up. I suppose I could go up and look." With a little difficulty, he soared up and out of sight. In a minute, he was back down and reported, "The mountains are that way," pointing with his wing.
"Thank you. That is very helpful,"
said Cricket. "I'm Honza Holub, by the way. I guess I should say, welcome to Prague. It's a beautiful place in some ways, but in others, not so much. This air, for example. There's too much smelly exhaust from cars, trucks, buses, and planes, not to mention the people smoking and the factories. Some days I can barely breathe." Welcome to Prague. Not always a barrel of fun. For example, the smog. It's trouble for everyone. As I fly above, it's hard to breathe the air. Too many cars and trucks and planes. For a bird, it's just not fair. "You're going to the mountains, huh?" Honza continued. "They must be beautiful."
"Oh, why, they are. Say, why don't you join us? I think you would enjoy the better air there."
I think I may just do that," said Honza, coughing a bit. "I'm ready for a change, and I could help you too, if you ever need someone to fly up and look which way to go." Cricket and Snail were glad to have a new companion, and the three of them headed towards the Azera Mountains. Chapter 2. Working together, our trio navigated the streets of the giant city of Prague. Snail converted his shell into the snail-mobile so he could keep up with the other two, and Honza periodically flew up to keep them on course to the mountains. After a while, they approached a wide river, the Vltava. Cricket and Honza were admiring the flowing water and wondering how Cricket and Snail would get across when they heard Snail cry out behind them. "Heck, what the heck?" Snail exclaimed. What is this?" Honza and Cricket raced to his side, only to find Snail entangled in a plastic net, some carelessly littered packaging that once held avocados or something. They tried desperately to free him, but the harder they pulled on the netting, the more tangled he got. Just then, they heard some quacking. They looked up to see a duck quickly waddling towards them. "Stand clear," she quacked. "I'll help. I see this all the time. The duck rushed up to Snail, and taking out a sharp piece of glass that was on a string around her neck, said, "Now just try to relax, and be still." Snail became calm while she carefully cut the plastic with her sharp glass piece. "And there, that should do it. You're free," she said. "Whew, thank you so much for getting me out of that," said Snail. "That was the strangest thing." "Happens more often than you think round here," she replied. "Plastic things are all around, and I have a terrible time with them myself. That's why I carry around this piece of sharp glass to cut myself or others free of this evil stuff."
"Where does the plastic come from?"
said Cricket. People just throw it on the ground, or blows out of trucks or boats. It's the humans that do it. They use way too much of it, and it's ruining my life here." "That's terrible," said Snail. "Oftentimes, I've found that my nest even has little bits of plastic in it from the grass and mud that I've used to make it," she continued. "And I wouldn't be surprised if I don't even eat it in my food." Well, everyone was pretty shocked and didn't know what to say. Finally, the duck said, "I'm Kachka, and this is my home, the Vltava. It's a beautiful and mighty river, but with all the plastic and other water pollution, she's struggling, and I am too." I swim around the river all day long. I go through the water and sing my song. I swim around the river all day long. But lately I've noticed that something's wrong. There's too much plastic in the river these days. It's changing my life in so many ways. So now I swim around with a bit of sharp glass to free myself from plastic, to try to get past. To free myself from plastic, to try to get past. Cricket says,
"My name is Cricket. This is Snail from America, and we met Honza Holub at the airport. We are going to the Azera Mountains, my home. It's beautiful there. Perhaps you'd like to join us and take a break from this place for a while."
Kachka looked out across the river wistfully. She sighed. "That might be a good idea. Some days I just get so sick of seeing plastic trash everywhere. Okay, I'll go with you. But to get to the Azera Mountains, you'll need to get across this river. Let's see, Hans can obviously just fly over. But you two, you will need to hop on my back for a short Kachka cruise. We'll be there in no time. So Cricket and Snail climbed onto Kachka's back. She swam across the Vltava and they continued on their way. Chapter 3. So the group was 4 now, 2 birds, 2 insects, heading north to the Azera Mountains. While the birds could have flown, they were walking together with Cricket and Snail to get to know them better. The city gradually thinned out, and soon the villages became farther apart from one another. Our travelers were leaving one of these villages when they entered what looked like a forest. They were glad to feel the calm of the trees around them. But just as they were relaxing, they suddenly started to hear a disturbing humming sound ahead. They followed the sound, and suddenly the trees opened into a clearing with a very wide highway in the middle. Cars and trucks were rumbling and whizzing past. Some cars were going very fast indeed. "Wow, this is something, isn't it?" said Snail. "Yes, these cars on the highway go very fast," said Hansel. "Sometimes I wonder why. It's very unsafe." "How are we going to get across?" said Cricket. "I can just see us getting hit halfway across by some maniac." "I would try to fly you and Snail across," said Kachka, "but it might not be safe either." Just at that time, a quiet hedgehog appeared out of nowhere.
"Hello,"
he said in a small, quiet voice.
"Do you need to get across?"
"Why, yes, we're going to the Azera Mountains," said Cricket.
"It's very dangerous to cross here. Tried it many times. I was hit very often by cars."
They now noticed that the hedgehog had an injured leg that caused him to limp. He moved closer and whispered,
"I found a secret way that's safe. Follow me."
They lined up behind the slowly moving hedgehog, and he led them to a lower place next to the road. There was a tunnel, a water duct that went under the highway. It was dark and wet, so they all filed in close together and moved through the mysterious tunnel. At the other end, blinking in the sunlight, they all turned to the hedgehog and thanked him. The hedgehog said,
"You're welcome. I'm just glad that I helped you all. My name's EUU, and I'm pleased to meet you. By the way, what takes you all to the Azera Mountains?"
I'm from there, so I'm going home, and my friend Snail from America is coming with me. Honza and Kachka are coming too because they are just tired of the pollution where they are living and want to change, at least for a while.
"That's very interesting."
What do you mean?" asked Kachka.
Actually, it's not easy to be a hedgehog these days. As you know, we hedgehogs are not very fast, and we often get hit by cars when we try to cross the roads. It's really terrible. The cars are going so fast, we really don't have much of a chance. Also, there's not too much forest for us to live in. One time, I tried to live in someone's backyard, but the chemical in the soil made me really sick, so I got out.
"That sounds awful," said Honza.
Oh, it was. It took me weeks to recover.
not so easy being a hedgehog these days, I tell ya. The cars are driving on the streets so fast. It's hard to cross to where I want to, so I found a tunnel into which I crawl safely past. It's not so easy being a hedgehog these days, I tell ya. The forest is getting smaller day by day. So we go in somebody's yard to find a little place to lie down, but it's all covered with chemical spray. Yuck! When Jiří finished his song, the group all looked at each other and knew they were thinking the same thing. Cricket spoke first. Do you want to come with us to the Azera mountains? They are very beautiful. Of course, Jiří said yes. But, he added,
I'm not very fast, though. I hope I don't slow you down.
Don't worry about that, said Snail. Everyone is too much in a hurry these days. We will all take advantage of this slower pace and greater appreciate the things around us. Trust me, as a snail, I know what I'm talking about. The whole group nodded in agreement, and they continued on their way. Chapter 4. Pretty soon the villages were even farther apart, and our group was walking mostly through fields. There were cornfields, soybean fields, poppy fields, but most striking of these were vast fields of bright yellow flowers. You could see them from miles away. That's kind of strange, said Snail. I'm not sure I've seen this type of yellow field before. It's really yellow.
I see them off in the distance, but only recently. It's a relatively new thing. I'm not sure what it is. Something tells me it's not so great.
Suddenly, a bee buzzed right over their heads. She was moving quickly and was frantically looking for something. Bzz, 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 looking for pollen to store. Bzz, 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 there's not much more. Bzz, 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 flowers are gone, I must move on. Bzz, 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 it's been too warm. After a while, the bee slowed down, and they could see that she looked tired and a bit ill. She landed near the group, and as if waking from a dream, said slowly, Well, hello. I'm sorry. I didn't see you there.
Are you all right?
Said Cricket gently. Oh, I've been better. As you know, we bees collect pollen, and it's getting harder and harder these days. The weather's more unpredictable, and it's more difficult to know when the flowers are going to bloom. Sometimes the warm temperatures come in early spring, while I'm still snoozing in my hive. So when I can't find wildflowers, I'm forced to find my pollen in these giant, ugly fields. There are plenty of flowers, but the pesticides and fertilizers they put on these crops really make me sick. These yellow ones are the worst. Jiří said sympathetically.
That must be very frustrating.
Oh, is it ever, said the bee. By the way, I'm Vichelka Vlasta. Pleased to meet you. They all introduced themselves and told Vlasta their story. Finally, Cricket said,
So, we are going to my home in the Azera mountains. It is beautiful there.
Yes, I know of these mountains, but I've never been. Look over there. You can see them on the horizon. They all looked off in the distance with quiet reverence and palpable expectation. Vlasta continued. I'm not sure how much better it will be up there, but maybe there are more wildflowers there than down here, since there are more trees.
Oh, there are, I know it. And not as many yellow fields either.
Well, that sounds pretty nice, actually, said Vlasta. Might be a good way to clear out my head for a while. These pesticides have been making me crazy. So Vichelka Vlasta joined our adventurers. Cricket was glad to have another insect in the gang, and she talked more and more excitedly about where they were headed. Soon she would be home. Chapter 5. The fields started to give way to forested hills, and the roads began to wind upward. Cricket began to recognize more and more familiar landmarks until she was hopping with excitement. She could hardly wait to see her family again. At last they arrived at the field where Cricket's family lived. When the door of their cottage opened, Cricket's mother and father saw their daughter and were overwhelmed. She had just disappeared one day, several months ago, with no word. They were so sad and confused, but now she was back, and with several friends with her. It took several hours to explain all that had happened to Cricket since she had disappeared. Finally, Cricket's father said, "Well, Cricket, we were so sad when you left, but it seems like your experiences brought you many things. New friends, knowledge, and even wisdom in the end." Cricket's parents now began to meet and learn about Cricket's new friends that she met in the Czech Republic. Each told Cricket's parents about their hard life and explained why they had come to the Azera Mountains. They all said they hoped for something better here. Cricket's mother said proudly, "Well, as you can see, it is beautiful here, but we are not without our problems too. That said, I hope you can restore your spirits and health here. It is also important to remember that you can't just run away from your problems, but you must work to find solutions. I'm not sure we can help you too much with that, but say, I have an idea. Why don't you go and ask for help from the great river fairy Izerina, the namesake of these mountains and our river?"
"I like the sound of that," chimed in Kachka. "I know rivers are all about change and flow, and I'm sure this Izerina could help us somehow."
Everyone thought this was a great idea, and some started to wonder just how Izerina could help. "Maybe she'll do some fairy magic," mused Yuji.
"Or perhaps she'll summon her team of fairies to do something," speculated Vlasta.
"Well, best to just wait and see," advised Cricket's mother. "To meet Izerina, you will need to journey to the source of the Azera River."
Finding the source of a river sounds tricky," said Kachka. "There are so many little streams feeding into the larger rivers."
"I didn't say it would be easy," said Cricket's mom. "It's a bit of a riddle, really. But be assured that those with pure spirits can solve it and find Izerina when they need help." The whole group was quiet a while each of them began to meditate on that idea.
Our true spirits,
said Cricket finally.
I get that. I suggest that we each take some time here alone, quiet our minds, and get in touch with our true spirits. Only then will we be ready to start our journey.
They all agreed, so after a celebratory feast with Cricket's parents, they would spend the next 3 days in meditation and rest in preparation for seeking Queen Izerina. Chapter 6. On the 4th day, they gathered in front of Cricket's parents' house to head out to find Queen Izerina at the source of the Azera River. For a while they were able to follow the river without too much trouble. They all walked together, keeping pace with the slowest. But then, as the hills became steeper and the forest thicker, they had to be more creative. Sometimes the smaller animals rode on Kachka's back as she swam upstream, while Vichelka Vlasta and Honza Holub flew above. Then, as the river got smaller and smaller, the going became even slower, because the duck and animals sometimes needed to climb over steep wet rocks. It was rough going, but they made progress by working together. Then something stopped them altogether.
"Look," said Kachka. "This is what I was afraid of."
They all looked up and saw that the river ahead branched, like a tree, into 6 small brooks. These 6 streams were all coming together and feeding the Azera River where they stood. "But which one is the source of the Azera River?" said Snail.
Izerina complained.
It will take us a long time to explore all these rivers.
Remember, my mom said it was going to be a riddle.
That's right, said Vlasta. Let's think. Honza Holub said, well, they all look about the same size, but none of the streams seem any more important than the others. But luckily, observed Snail, the forest is thinned out, and it looks possible for us to get around here better than before. There was silence as they continued to think. After a while, Cricket closed her eyes and said softly,
It's a riddle. There are many streams. There are 6 streams, and there are 6 of us. Ah, I've got it.
What do you mean, Cricket? asked Snail. She continued.
There are 6 streams and 6 of us, don't you see? The source is not one of the streams, but all of them. And because of this, we each need to follow one of the streams. And I know it doesn't make any sense, but something inside tells me that this is the way we'll find Izerina.
Chelka Vlasta said doubtfully, I don't know, that sounds a bit kooky to me.
I think it will work, said Kachka calmly. I understand rivers, and Cricket's idea seems right to me.
Well, I'm not sure myself, said Snail, but I think we should take a leap of faith and try. Everyone thought about it.
Well, I'm in, said Hansa.
Me too,
echoed Yuji. They all agreed to try it.
Okay,
said Cricket.
I think we should all go to the stream that we feel is the right one for us to follow and go for it. If any of you have trouble, just go back down the river to this place. If this turns to be nothing, we can just come back together here.
It was agreed, and everyone chose a river to follow. As they all moved up these tiny streams, they now had similar experiences. The streams were hard to follow now, and were sometimes even underground for stretches. They were also climbing higher and higher into the mountains, and it was getting mistier and mistier among the trees. It was even becoming pretty difficult to see shapes in the fog, when finally a light could be seen glowing in the distance. Chapter 7. As our adventurers approached the light, it got brighter and brighter. And here's the funny thing. Each animal of our group could see the other 5 walking from different directions in a circle toward the light.
How could this be?
Thought Cricket.
We all went off in different directions. This must be a magical place, the true source of the Azera River.
As the circle of friends got nearer the glow, they could hear an enchanting, watery music and see delicate figures dancing around a very beautiful fairy whose hair and dress flowed like rivers from her.
Izerina,
whispered Cricket to herself in amazement. The queen was entirely present in the activity around her, but once the group was near the fairies, Izerina lifted her gaze to the approaching animals. It was almost as if she was expecting them. The queen's voice floated through the air.
Friends, welcome. You all are bright spirits in this world, I can tell, because you have come all this way, but I can also feel the sadness within each of you. What has brought you here?
Cricket spoke first.
Queen Izerina, we have come for help. We are worried about the world. It is polluted. We are suffering and we don't know what to do.
I am Honza, said the pigeon, stepping forward. I live near the airport, and the air is so bad there that I have trouble breathing. Your Highness, Kachka here, said the duck, bowing low. My home is so full of plastic that it's making my life miserable.
Excuse me, I'm Czech. We hedgehogs are losing our forest homes. We're getting hit by the cars on the highway.
I'm Vlasta, said the bee.
This weird weather we're having is making it harder for me to find wildflowers for pollen. And when I go to the flowers in the field, they just make me sick." Next, Snail slowly slid up to Izerina and said sincerely, "We are all indeed very sad. Can you please help us?" Izerina looked at each of them lovingly and then said,
"You poor things. I'm so sorry about how you've suffered. It's not your fault. You all are perfect creatures with important roles in this world. We are all connected in this web of life, and we should never forget this. These problems can seem so big. If we look at them all at once, it's so easy to get overwhelmed and feel powerless. Here's my wisdom for you. Say to yourself, 'The change begins with me.' Focus on just what's around you. Focus on the things that you yourself can change. Once you start doing this, you will feel better and your spirit will strengthen. Others will notice your growth, and you will soon find those who have the same feeling as you, and together you will make an even bigger difference." Now, another reason you feel so hopeless is because you animals are not the source of these problems. It's the humans. Most of them have no idea about their harm they are doing to our world. It's like they're asleep and continue their damaging behavior just because it's easy in habit. If this doesn't change, things will surely get worse over time. So, what you each need to do is return to your homes and wake people up to the problems. Then share with them the wisdom I've given you. Tell them to focus on themselves and say time and time again, "The change begins with me. The change begins with me. The change begins with me." The little things people can do are indeed important and can lead to larger changes. We must have faith in this. Here are some things you can tell the humans to start doing. Things like clean up your home and neighborhood. Pick up trash as you walk your dog or exercise. Take ownership of the world around you. Eat less meat, especially beef. It's not only cruel to animals, but also the energy used to provide meat to the public is huge and unsustainable. Ditch plastic. Stop buying and using plastic. It doesn't go away ever. Recycling of plastic isn't helpful yet because hardly anybody wants it. Recycle. Recycle paper products, electronics, and glass. Reusing these things are even better. Eat local. Eat locally produced organic fruits and vegetables. Plant your own garden. Avoid food from pesticide-heavy industrial farming, especially from far, far away. Walk, bike, and use transit as much as possible. Slow down. Start using cars and airplanes less and less until you don't need them anymore. They put terrible things into the air. Use and support renewable energy like solar, wind, and other renewable sources of power. Support elected officials who want to make changes and care about the world. And all the while, everyone needs to repeat like a mantra over and over again, "The change begins with me. The change begins with me. The change begins with me." Repeat it until it becomes part of your everyday life. If you do this, you will be amazed by the changes you can make in the world. Now, here is a song that you can learn and take with you to help remember what I've now told you.
The change begins with me. Now I can clearly see that the world is huge and the problems big, but my power is just the life I live. So I'll just do what I can to make the world a more beautiful, because I know the change begins with me.
As the music faded away, the group of animal friends all gathered together, feeling strong and inspired to start the simple but profound task of changing themselves. They sincerely thanked Izerina for her kindness and wisdom. Then, as they journeyed back to Cricket's parents, they discussed with each other the changes that they would make and how they would share Izerina's wisdom when they got home with their fellow animals and especially the humans. It is really the only way for change to start to happen. So, how about you, humans? Can you change yourself to make the world a better place?
The change begins with me. Now I can clearly see that the world is huge and the problem's big, but my power is just the life I live. So I'll just do what I can to make the world around me a bit more beautiful. More beautiful, because I know the change begins with me.
I'll try to get him in the middle there. Cold?
Now?